everybody. Welcome to another episode of Digital Ascent. This is episode 0006. Today / tonight / this evening, wherever you are in the world. All right. I'm joined by the original guys here. All right, Brent, Sean, and Matt. And today we're going to be talking about 40 series GPUs. Everything about them. Should you buy them? Does it matter? If you have a 30 series card or a 20 series card, is this really something for you? We're going to hop into it. You know what I'm saying? Guys, how do you want to, well, actually, I don't want to start that way. What I want to say is I thought it would be really, I don't want to say fun, maybe fun, depending on how you're looking at it. What card is everybody rocking right now? Are you guys on the 30 series? Do we have some people still on the 10 series, 16? I think we're all on 30 series cards right now, right?
I know I am.
Yeah.
I have a 3050 at the moment.
I've got a 3070.
Yeah, and I've got a 3080.
Yeah, all right. And I'm also rocking
the whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got them. Yeah, we got them all the way up. I'm also rocking a 3080. Shout out to EVGA, RIP.
Yeah, RIP for real.
Yeah,
So
that's unfortunate.
This is
Maybe we should
actually
provide a little context on that one for people that don't know. EVGA pulled out of the GPU business, just for anybody that's not aware of how all that works. They have, partners. I'm trying to think, what do they actually call them? Is it just partners?
I think they're partners.
There's a
Yeah,
proper term for it, though, I thought.
No,
But anyways, yeah.
But let's just go with partners. Yeah.
I think
Is it not
right, there's
partners?
I mean, yes, but I thought they had like a specific terminology for them.
Guys, we don't want to
I
get
thought
hung
so,
up
too.
on this.
We keep flowing. We're good.
Yeah, we're already
Okay, yeah, okay. So as Bert was saying, these guys they're not out of business, right? They're not going anywhere. They're just not doing GPU stuff.
That's right. Yeah, they're still making power supplies and motherboards and mice
Good
and
deal.
keyboards and
It's just
capture
this particular
cards and
market,
so on and
right?
so forth. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
They're still around, and they're still, for anyone that is rocking an EVGA card, it's still under warranty. Maybe you bought the extended warranty like I did. They're still going to be supporting that. They apparently still have a warehouse full of cards, so in case you do need a replacement and something like that, they're still around. So don't get
Good deal.
super nervous. So
Yeah, I'm a little. Just not that it matters. I literally just put this brand new 3080, into my machine like 2 months ago. Just barely, and then they announced, "Hey, sorry, we're done." So hopefully they stick up with support and all that, and it won't be a problem until I got to upgrade next. But follow-up question here for the group: when did I think the 30 series launched the same in 2019? Right, it was 2019. Did you guys pick up cards right at launch, or did you wait a little bit? Like how recently did you hop on the 30 series wave?
30 series, by the way, came out September 2020 because it was post.
Oh, was it 20?
Like post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what messed it all up.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
That's
they came
right.
out and there were
Okay.
a bunch of supply chain issues, and then all the crypto madness happened, and good luck
Yep.
getting a card. It was pretty painful.
Yeah. So with all that thrown in there, when did you guys, Matt? Let's start with you. When were you finally able to pick a card up?
Oh man, so I got really lucky. I got insanely lucky. I was able to get a 3070 in late November. I got it from like a straight up retail shop for like $700. And
Sick.
yes, exactly. So I was eligible for the step up plan. Ended up not doing that. The step up plan is like, when I went to go shopping, there were no 3080s available, so you can get a 3070. When a 3080 gets available, you're on a wait list, and eventually they ask you if you want to step up to a 3080. And it wasn't so bad. I could have, it would have cost me like a couple $100 more for the card, but then would have had to pay like some more money in fees, and then it was like another $100 in tax. And when it was all said and done, it turned out to be like $1,100 for a 3080. And I just didn't want to do it. And so I didn't. So that's how I ended
fair.
up with. So for the record, I did not want to re-up to the 3070. I had a 3080, a gigabyte 2080 Ti, gigabyte 2080 Ti, and it bit the dust, and it was out of the warranty period. And
Okay, so
Um,
you stepped up from a
mhm,
2080, by the way. You were
mhm.
rocking with
Yeah,
that for a minute.
2080 yeah, 2080 Ti, and I had that thing for a year or something like that, maybe a little more. It should not have bit the dust, but
Okay, so this
it
is
did.
perfect
So
because
I was
that
salty.
you've knocked you've knocked a couple of questions or a couple birds out with
Hmm.
just one stone. So Matt stepped up from a 2080 to the 3070 or 60
20
70.
2080 Ti to the 3070.
Okay, and you didn't do it because you wanted to. Your card
Yep.
died. It was out of
Yep.
warranty. You had to replace the card. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's fair. Brent, when did you step up? And was there a specific did your if I remember correctly, you were just a tech enthusiast and you were gunning like as soon as it was ready to go, right?
Well, it was kind of that too. I was working on a new build anyways, and I was waiting on the GPUs to come out so I could kind of complete my quote unquote new build. So I
Okay.
was lucky enough to land a 3060 Ti early December. And then I was able to land a 3080 in January, mid to late January of the following year, so 2021. And then,
Okay.
I kept both cards, and I stepped up from a 1070, so that was a massive upgrade for me.
Woo! Oh boy, it was time. Yeah, Brent was okay. All right, that makes a lot of sense. You add in the context, and it's like, yeah, why would you not be gunning? I mean, at the time too, when the 30 series was announced, it was like, holy crap,
Right.
all the new bells and whistles, and these price points are insane. That's important because we're going to talk a lot about that here in a bit. Sean, when did you upgrade and why?
So I actually upgraded this year, believe it or not. 2022.
Okay.
I actually made a deal with my wife. It was like, you can get a couch and I can get a graphics card. So, so that's what
Hey, fair.
the deal
That's
was.
fair.
Oh man.
Basically, my entire gaming career with PCs was Frankenstein, man. I just took whatever I could get when I could get it, and so I was rocking
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, it was like an i3 and like 16 gigs of RAM and a 1050 Ti, and I was just rocking that as much as I could. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I gotta. It's time. I'm done. So I stepped up to the 3050, and man, it's like night and day. But it was much needed to do what I wanted to do. So
Fair. And I've just to, I guess, round out, I stepped up from a 2070 and I actually, much like Sean, just upgraded this year. Had a little bit of a delay just because I had some issues getting the card. I think it might have been I think it came down to like a motherboard thing, but I haven't figured that. That's not
didn't you
important.
return it
I
like
finally,
6 times? Like
it
you
was
returned it like
it was
a
2 or 3
bajillion.
times, I
Yeah.
think, and then after the second round, I sat here with the replacement card for months, and I said, I don't know if I can tear this whole machine down again and play with it for 12. I don't know if I've got it in my heart. And
Yeah.
then it was time to just, hey, I got to put up, and we got to figure this out. You know what I mean? I'm ready to play some games. You know what I mean? And hey, we got to figure it out. So a couple months ago, not 2 months ago, I got this new card in. Got a clean pane of Windows installed, and I mean the system is rocking and it's doing great. So just a few months ago, I upgraded, and there was no specific reason. I was at a Best Buy for something unrelated, and happened to be doing a courtesy pass by the PC hardware aisle, and they had one GPU that was there, and it was a refurb. It ended up not mattering anyways, just because I had to replace the card, through EVGA support. And so, all that to say, yeah, I'm just upgrading. Hey, I got the money. uh, look, we got a card here. I'll do it. It was right before the crash, so I bought this at, I think it was $1,100, and man,
Oof.
6 months later,
Mm,
they tanked.
that hurts.
And right
That
now,
hurts
you
me.
can go get a 3090. I think right now I've seen some listings for less than what I've paid for the 3080, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of
That's
like, you know what?
tech for you.
Yeah, I'm so okay, cool. And there's a reason, gentlemen, that I start off with this question, because I think it sets a good baseline for our listeners of like what everybody's kind of sitting on right now, and kind of how I want to direct the conversation here. The 40 series is out, all right, and the reception, I feel like, just to put us all on the same page, was much different than when the 30 series was announced, and it feels like, I don't want to say middle of the road because I feel like it was more one-sided. I feel like more people were disappointed when the announcement was first made, whether that was because of hardware specifications or benchmarks, more rather, or just the overall like price points of some of these cards. The 4090, just to kick us off here, is rocking at a mean $1,500, I believe. Is it
$1,599.
$1,500? 16? Okay, $1,600.
$1,599. Yeah.
Okay, so I cut him
Yeah.
$100 short. Gee, Lord. All right. I mean,
That's more than my entire rig.
oh my God. Okay, and that's what I'm. I think to start, I think I bought a pre-built a couple years ago. All right, and to abstain myself of any sins, my machine now has been completely rebuilt. Every piece has been replaced. All right, so no judgment here. I'm a new man. All right, but when I bought this pre-built, I think that was around the price point. And at the time, the 20 series was hot and popping. I had a brand new card, top of the line, CPU, $1,600. I get it. It's a pre-built. It's probably not the best, setup I could have at the time, but holy crap. $1,600? Oh, if we take a step down to even the 4080, the 4080, I believe, is $200 or $300 more than, the 3080 at launch. I believe that one's coming in at, I just had the prices here. I think it's $1099 or $1199. We'll correct this. I'll throw it in the show notes later, but
Yeah, I think it was like 1,200 if I remember correctly.
okay, yeah. So it's still a little bit more expensive, and I mean, we can, the 4080 specifically, and I mean this one's a little wonky, all right, because they announced two versions of the 4080. Okay, and I don't know if you guys have kept up at all, but they actually kind of walked that back a little bit. So to start, when they announced the full line, they announced the 4090, a 4080 16 gig, and a 4080 12 gig, and then the 4070. I don't know. Oh, and
Yeah,
the
that
also
sounds right.
the 4060. Sorry. So there aren't any benchmarks out, by the way, for these the 40. I don't want to say all of the cards. The 4090 is out already, so benchmarks have already started to trickle out. Everybody's already had their hands on them, and I think that one released on the 12th. So there should be like there's a there's a lot of videos and stuff covering that card specifically, but that's the only one from this line that's out right now. The 4080s aren't dropping until November, and 4070 and the 4060. I don't think they've dropped dates for those. Matt, I can see your notes in here.
Yeah, they're saying it's going to be like Q1 maybe. These are rumors, right? The
Okay,
4080 is
right.
announced for the 16th, and yeah, they pulled that 12 gig version, I guess, due to the bad reception, right?
Yeah, and
Uh,
so I actually
mhm.
this will be in the show notes as well. I just saw they were interviewing, I don't know, I'm not even going to pretend that I know who it was. Some important, it might have been the CEO or the COO, one of the big wigs over at NVIDIA. But they said essentially, they name their cards based off of the estimated performance, right? And they do that for their consumers, right? If you get a 4080, you're going to know what a 40, you know what I mean? Like that's why they're
Mhm.
naming it the 4080. You're going to know roundabout what you're getting within that series of cards, right? And since they dropped two of them, most people were kind of confused because the performance gaps between the two of them were not major. So at that point, it's like, why? What are we doing? You know what I mean? So, and it's funny because Nvidia, when they announced it, there is no. I mean, they got to market it on their side, so there is no. They're very confident, and they're like, yeah, this is going to be, we're God's gift to gaming. So here are these two cards. Take them, be happy. Look at all this stuff, and that's very, it's very obviously not what happened. I remember very specifically, I didn't get to watch the live stream when they were announcing the videos, but hey, I'm a big Linus Tech Tips fan. The first thing I was looking for when I got off work that day was a rundown from their channel. And I think they posted one later in the evening, but I was really surprised to see that like his video and a lot of the other videos, people were just disappointed. And they were talking, this was one of the big main points. They were talking about why are these 4080 cards, a thing? So I should have asked this question before I kind of hopped in there, but is there any interest with you guys? Like, do you guys feel like, even with some of you, I know for me, the answer is no. And Sean, I would imagine that the answer for you as well will be no, but does this line of cards or series of cards interest you at all? I know we've only kind of talked about the 4090 and the 80 right now. I don't even know that there are hard stats for the 70 and the 60, but are you guys interested in this series of cards? Do you see a reason to
Can I ask a
upgrade?
question?
Absolutely.
In what capacity? So, like at a technical level, yes, I'm very much interested in these. As far as their output and what the benchmark difference is, right? But as far as purchasing, no, not in the slightest. But there's a reasoning behind that. I'm always kind of a late bloomer anyway when it comes to technology, just because I want other people to figure out all the bugs and crap that comes
Right.
along with
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
cards. Because, for instance, I have a buddy that, got the card, completely updated his entire rig, and he had problem after problem after problem, not unlike yours, but it was more from he had to flash the BIOS on the motherboard to get it to work because he bought a new motherboard.
Yeah.
And then there were so many technical difficulties because of the newer technology and just trying to get it finagled to work. It's like, it's not insurmountable, and some people like the challenge, but for me, I'd rather wait to see those things kind of get ironed out anyways, just as a standard. So for me, short answer, no.
Okay. Matt and Brent, how you guys feeling?
I am frustratingly interested in this line of cards.
What does that mean?
I think I know
think
it.
Matt and I are in the same boat because we still feel like we're trying to get our money's worth out of the 30 series
Yes,
cards that we bought.
Dude.
And the 40 series
Yeah.
far outperforms what we just purchased not that long ago.
Okay. All right. So let me.
Hold on. I want to say my piece, darn it. I want to get on
Do it,
my
do it.
soapbox.
Yes,
All right.
please.
So it's soapbox time, suckers. I'm mad
Triggered.
about I knew this was gonna happen. I'm mad about the 30 series cards. Darn it. I bought a 3070. It cost me basically half of what I feel like a decent rig should cost in general. And
Yeah.
right, because I mean it's
Heard
a
that.
$700 card. I got it pretty close to the recommended retail price. I'm not mad about that. I got really lucky. But a lot of people didn't. And it was supposed to be so good, and 30 series was way better than the 20 series. And I had a 2080 Ti, so I was pretty much like the best it's gonna get while not going to Titan territory. But I still felt like I paid a lot of money for a card, and man, it still can't. It doesn't feel like a premium card. It still doesn't get the frame rates that I want to get from games like Witcher. Well, Witcher, I guess maybe is a bad example, but Cyberpunk isn't. And that's a game with like a 3070. I feel like I should be able to turn on their super duper ray tracing that they promise is so cool, and their DLSS and that they promise is so cool, and get frame
Don't
rates
even get
that
me
aren't
started
like 30.
on that
And
damn
I'm
game,
not even
man. It
doing,
was-
I'm not even doing 4K. I'm just at 1440p. And
it's
I feel
terrible.
like and it's not just that game, it's other games too, where I'm like,
yes.
why do I like, why in MechWarrior do I have now full blast everything, right? 3070s are supposed to be good cards. So now they come out with the next series here, and my personal analysis, and I want to be clear, I've spent a little bit of time looking at it and not a ton of time, but what it looks like to me is that the actual raw power behind the new cards is not that fantastic. Like in terms of like bang for bang, when you talk about DLSS 2.0, it looks like to me the real interesting thing is the software here that they're not going to backport to the older cards, which I mean, I have to ask myself, well, could it possibly be backported in any way? right? And I don't know, man. That's my 2 cents. I'm mad about it. I still want the top end performance, and the 30 series just didn't bring it for current gen.
It's funny that you say, and I definitely want Brent's thoughts as well, but I want to take just a second to tack on to something that you said, Matt, about the software versus the hardware, right? So I was literally right before we started recording, I'm trying to let me get some homework in really quick. I'm watching this video. And this will be in the show notes as well for anybody that's interested. It's a Linus Tech Tips video, and they're doing benchmarks just last week for this 4090 that came out. And the benchmarks are fantastic when they're running, like they are superb when they're running the game on like high settings with
Hmm.
DLSS 3 on, right? So they're
Yes,
hitting, like
like over 100
80,
frames per
90,
second. It
100
looks
frame.
good.
Yeah, on average
It
at
looks
4K
amazing.
with ray tracing on, right? And it's not just Cyberpunk, like you said, it's a lot of other like AAA games as well. They
There are
tested
35 that
the
support it.
Yep, and they tested some of those same games without DLSS, and it's not that there wasn't an improvement, but that far and superb, extreme, surpass all standards, improvement is obviously
It's
significantly cut
it's
back.
the
And
it's
so,
the
yeah,
software, man.
Cyberpunk in that, test was not hitting anywhere near what it was hitting when it had DLSS 3 enabled. And when they took that off, it was only doing, I don't want to say only like it's bad because it's still fantastic, but I think they were averaging they still couldn't hit 60 FPS without DLSS 3 even on this new $1,600 card. That's the point that I'm making. They couldn't even hit 60 FPS. So they
Uh,
tested on some older games and they were still able to, surpass those standards, but when you get to the new heavy hitters where something like $1,600 on a graphics card matters, you're going to kind of see that, level out a little bit if the game doesn't support DLSS 3, which I guess probably shouldn't be an issue as time goes on. Anyways, all that to say, Brent, how are you feeling about this new series of cards?
I mean, I'm kind of sour like Matt is. I mean, just looking at, so like, for instance, I'm pulling up some numbers here from Tom's Hardware. Don't get me wrong, DLSS 2.0 versus DLSS 3.0 is very impressive. However,
yes.
the raw performance is
Very.
very impressive too, because, talking like me, I've got a 3080. Oh, the average across 8 games at 4K, it's literally double the performance between a 3080 and a 4090. And that's raw.
Yep.
That's not DLSS. That's not anything software driven. That is
Yep.
purely increased clock speed, increased memory bandwidth, and the fact that they raised the baseline power consumption of these cards to 450 watts.
Yeah.
All that to say, and they still claim that performance per watt, the 4090s are more efficient than the 3080 or the 30 series. Like the 40 series are, I don't know, they have a percentage somewhere, but they're more efficient power draw wise than the 30 series was. Even though back when the 30 series was released, they were like, this is the most power efficient card we've released to date, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, you know how that goes. So yes, I am a little bit sour just because, like think back to the 20 series, the 2080 Ti like Matt had. That was like the golden standard for a long time, far
Yeah.
longer in my mind than a year. The 30 series has barely lasted a year. They're claiming, they're looking at the 40 series as essentially a 2-generation leap, not a single generation leap, which is absolutely crazy, given how the industry's been going. I don't think anybody expected such a huge uplift in performance on the hardware or the software side, really. So, yes, all that to say, a bit sour.
And Brent, let me ask you, I have a specific question for you, Brent, because I know out of everybody here, I feel like you are the one that would be the most locked into this. I've heard a lot of good things about, or I don't want to say good things necessarily, but I've heard a lot of things about this new encoding software that the 40 series is supposed to bring. I'm not trying to throw this to you, unexpectedly,
I'm
but have you
assuming you're
looked
talking
into
about
this new?
AV1.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Can you speak to the differences there as far as the encoding? I know you're not a big, I think you're just the most equipped out of us. Have you done any research
No,
into
you're good.
AV1?
I have actually. So this is AV1's an Intel standard. Intel's kind of been the one to like pioneer it a little bit. I do believe it's open source, if I remember correctly, technically. So no one in particular actually owns it. That's a huge difference between that and H.264 and H.265. There's
Yeah.
numbers somewhere you can look them up. Maybe we can put them in the show notes. But for instance, like Twitch and YouTube and all of them, they pay significant cost to encode and transcode H.264 and H.265 encoding, algorithms and whatnot, to where AV1 is essentially going to cost them almost nothing in comparison. Like it's going to be super efficient. Where this really matters is that for these, like some of the top tier streamers, and I'm talking like big boys like Tim the Tatman and Shroud and Summit 1G and Dr. Lupa and all these guys, whatever you guys, I'm sure everybody probably watches at least one of them. They have a separate stream machine, and usually they are encoding their video with the CPU. They're not using the GPU to do it. They're using like a Threadripper, to encode their video, because that's just how demanding it is it needs all the speed it can get, all the cores it can get to actually crunch this video down. AV1 for the 40 series, and then the new Intel GPUs that they just released, the ARCs. So that's going to probably be where they drive a little bit of the that'll drive their market a little bit, the Intel ARCs, because people are going to be buying them just to use the AV1 encoding. But it's going to be comparable to the encoding, the high level, high quality encoding you can get with a high dollar CPU, just on like $150 Intel Arc GPU. Or you'll just be able to get it when you upgrade to the 40 series. You're just going to have access to that encoder now, along with the NVINC and stuff that NVIDIA has always pushed with their cards. So it's a huge, for anybody that's doing streaming, anybody that's doing content creation of any sort, because you can also hook into these encoding chipsets and encoding hardware using, like Adobe Premiere and After Effects and Sony Vegas and all these editing suites. It's going to be a huge time saver for people's workflows when they're creating content, and it's going to be a huge uplift in video quality that they're able to deliver to their viewers once sites like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook gaming and all that are able to support it. And that support is coming soon, from what I've been reading. AV1 support encoding to their servers is going to be going live. I'd almost estimate Q1, Q2 2023.
I've heard, that's the big, and it's funny because I feel like I didn't hear about AV1 until the 40 series came out, and then it was like an explosion of information on it, and now all of a sudden I'm hearing like, oh yeah, this is going to be the new encoding standard that we're, that's pushed for in the very, near future. This is important to, everybody, I think, on like the heightened term or like sense of, I feel like this has become a video to sponsor Linus Tech Tips, but I was just watching another video from them
Linus,
a couple days ago about, hey, yo, hook some brothers up. You know what I mean? We speak the Lord's truth, all right? But he did a great video about like, it's actually, kind of controversial, but he's talking about like, I don't know if you guys heard YouTube for a little bit, they were testing paywalling, the 4K feature on YouTube. And they just rolled that back. But Linus did a video essay talking about why something like that might be needed. And one of his driving points was, hey, I don't want to be like for the big, $1 billion company, but they have to store all this stuff somewhere. And with the way that media consumption is going, 4K is it's just a big thing, right? Everybody can do it. And so now, that can be implemented into content creation. YouTube has to store that somewhere with the way videos are encoded. It's terrible when you're talking about bandwidth consumption and usage and downloading and uploading, and it's terrible. Things like AV1 will make that not, it won't completely absolve the entire, issue, but it will lessen the impact of things like content creation, just like Brent was talking about.
Right. Yeah, because they're talking about, I don't know if anybody's familiar with like bit rate and stuff like that, and thinking about like viewers that have limited connections, or maybe you're running around on a cell phone connection, whatever, you're on 4G, 5G, whatever. Listen to Sean over here. So there, just to give some comparison, a video stream currently, the quality of, let's say, a 6,500 kilobyte bit rate for a stream, it can be matched at half the bit rate with AV1. So half the amount of data being sent to the server, you're getting the same video quality, if not better in some circumstances, than double the bit rate on another encoder. That's how much more efficient it is.
Yep. It's
Do you
about
want
doing
more
less
bang
with
for your
more.
buck, because that's what you're gonna get. More bang.
Exactly.
For your buck.
It's a major uplift. Yeah.
I feel like, all of these things are great, and not to dismiss them, right? But I feel like and maybe I'm wrong here because I'm kind of not new to the gaming, atmosphere or environment or whatever, but kind of new to PC gaming on the level that I have been this last year. I feel like a lot of those things aren't important to the casual people who are eyeballing these cards. And so it still comes back down to price point. If I'm going to sell one of my buddies on this card, right, I could pitch all the things that we just talked about. But at the end of the day, if he's just a casual gamer looking to have the best experience that he can when he does game, I don't know that he cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
He's
then
not going
that
to be
kind
interested in spending $1,600. No,
absolutely,
not your casual
that
gamer.
is the, you know what I'm talking
No.
about? Like
No.
and so when you get back to, looking at the value of these cards, especially with the crash that's going on right now, I don't know how long these things normally last. I don't know if that's going to affect. Are you guys up to date on like the 4090 and how that's selling? Is it being like scalped like the 30 series was, or?
I mean, I know it's gone. So
Yeah, it's gone now.
Okay, yeah, cool. So we'll probably get a similar, people probably won't widely have them for a while, right?
yeah, and I believe the 4080s are going to be gone too, very likely.
So,
Yep.
I mean,
But
No
here's
way.
a point, though, right? So here's something about that, because again, it depends on what you're doing, and with the market now being flooded with 30 series, it's like, okay, why do I care? Like, what is out right now that I really like? Yes, there's some performance
Absolutely.
differences, right? But
Yep.
we're talking about casual gamer market, so why do I care? I'll just go get the 30 series, be able to play most of the games out there really, really well, and go about my business until this whole cycle repeats again. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, as a consumer, I'm happy with my 3050 because it does exactly what I need it to, which is why I'm technically interested in the 40 series, but not in any real sense of purchasing. And I
Yeah.
feel like for most people, that's going to be their thought process. I could be wrong. I mean, hey, I got a buddy that just dropped $1,600 on the card and updated his whole rig, and I think he spent like $4,200 on it.
Woo.
But that's yeah. But he wanted the best of the best, and
Yeah, wow.
there's those types of people that want it. I'm not knocking it at all. That's not what I'm saying. But for the average gamer, for the average person, they're not going to want to go update their entire rig for a card. You know what I mean?
I would say if you are sitting there right now with a rig that doesn't have a GPU in it and you are desperate to game, go get you a 30 series because they're as cheap as they've ever
Absolutely.
been. If
Yeah.
you are setting on any other card and you are not desperate for a performance uplift, but you also don't want to spend $1,600 on a 4090, I would certainly wait until the more budget-oriented 40 series cards come out, whenever that may be, because that is going to be a better bang for your buck by far. And I don't think we're going to see. I mean, NVIDIA could surprise me, and they could absolutely just annoy the hell out of their customers again. But I seriously doubt that with the 50 series, we're going to see a 2-generation jump like we just saw. But I could be wrong. I would never have expected the 40 series to do what it just did either. So
Sure.
I think NVIDIA just does what they want to do at this point.
It kind of like begs the question as well of, I know I don't have specs in front of me, but I know like just looking at the Steam charts, that's not the proper term for it, but I know Steam does like a report. I don't know what frequency, but they do like a hardware report. We'll say at least yearly, right?
Yeah, the most popular cards and whatnot.
Yes, and the 30 series it's been out for 2 years, but it is, good lord, it is the minority. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think
Still,
didn't they say that I thought they said recently that the 3060 overtook the whatever the former leader was.
Oh, okay.
I think
didn't know
it
that.
finally
That's
beat
interesting.
out. I think it beat out the 1060 finally. I think that was the most common card for a while. 1060s.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I think
Well,
it finally did it. Yeah.
And it
I
took,
would
and
not
it's
have
still,
guessed that.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's still a little recent, but it's still kind of late. You know what I mean? Because it's been well, I don't think so really, because of how long it's taken for real people to get the cards and the shortages and all that. So maybe that's a fair amount of time. Who am I to just make up judgments like that? All that to say, the 40 series is coming out at these kind of, I mean, ridiculous price points. DLS S3, kind of rounding us back to that, circling us back here, is exclusive to the 40 series of cards. Right now, Matt, you said and I think we're all on the same page about like, man, it sucks that this sick software is not on this new to me card that I just dumped a ton of money on. It kind of begs the question of like, who is this something that we will now never experience because we didn't wait a little bit longer? Is this, I mean, I know I'm late to the party, but man, is this what it's like being in the PC game? Because I think I might stick to the consoles exclusively, going forward if I have to worry about dropping $2,000 on an upgrade, every 3 years. Do you guys feel like you guys have experienced this, like this fear of missing out, this FOMO, with DLSS 3 being announced? Has that ever been like felt before? Um, I-
Like, is it felt every generation? Yes. That's just how it works, man. You just got to understand, what can you afford and what type of rig do you want and how do those priorities fit into your life, and get what you want and can afford. Do I want like more? Yes. Can I spend $1,600 on a card plus tax? No. I guess I'm just gonna eat my suck sandwich. I mean, it's not even a suck sandwich; it's a 3070. I'm just salty because
I get it.
because I
I
want it
get
to
where
be
you're coming
better.
from. Let me restructure my question. Okay. I'm
Okay.
a little spoiled, all right, because I grew up on the consoles, all right? When a new generation of consoles comes out, it is insane. All right. It's much like what I feel like I've experienced or perceived watching, the PC space, the hardware space, and looking at this generation of cards come out and the last generation of cards come out. It's like these jumps they're insane, right? They're kind of crazy. And that's what I'm used to in the console space. But the difference between them is that I don't have to. It's like Sean, what you're saying is you got a buddy who upgrades, and not only does he want the card, but he wants to make sure his system is top of the line, and it tops out to just under 5K, on
Right.
upgrades that he's got to spend to make sure his system is top of the line. When the next Xbox comes out, I'm not going to have to spend, excuse me, $2,000. I'll spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 to $800 for a comparable experience on Xbox without the hassle of trying to self optimize myself on top of make sure everything is compatible. It's just a nice
Well,
in the
okay,
box
but
with the bow on top of it.
Hold on. Hold on. It's not a
Well,
comparable experience.
no, wait,
I
hold,
yeah, I was
mean,
about to
wait,
say.
yeah, no,
I'm
no, no,
giving.
no. It's
Hold
not.
on.
It's not. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
giving context. I'm just giving context
PC Master Race.
of how I see things. Okay. Now, hey, look. Now I'm rocking on the PC side. All right. I'm looking at a very expensive rig that does not get played as much as it should. When I look at the money that I spent on it. All right. So I'm on both sides. Okay. I'm merely presenting, my argument on my side. When you look at a company like NVIDIA, maybe this is just me, walking in new to the suckfest as somebody who has entered, PC Master Race for the first time. All right. But when I look at NVIDIA and they take a feature that is as groundbreaking as DLSS 3 and they lock it to, and I don't, Matt, I think you asked this question. I don't know if it's a technological handicap that
Yeah.
it is not capable of being, done on any of the cards prior. But what confuses me is they just ushered in this new generation. There are people, a vast majority of gamers still cannot get their hands on these cards. And yes, the crashes come, that just happened. So now people are just starting to get them, but it's been on the market for 2 years and this is now just happening. So as that happens, the new, series, the new wave, the next generation is announced, and we're leaving people now behind. And it's like, how great are these features if the vast majority of people won't experience them? I mean, the very vast majority of people won't experience them for at least a couple more years, right? At this point, am I paying for features that won't be utilized because a majority of gamers don't have their hands on these cards? Do you guys kind of get where I'm getting at here? Is it worth it in the long run?
But man, here's the deal, right? So you said the experience was comparable for console. I tend to disagree. It's only become that way recently, like relatively recently.
It's still
it
not.
also depends. Like I would even argue that it's still not 1-to-1.
Like
The other thing too
goals
is
It's
just
pretty
aren't the
close,
same.
guys.
No,
Guys,
hold on.
What's the
close.
game that
Pretty
just
close.
came out? Well, didn't Gotham Knights release and it's locked at 30 FPS on modern consoles?
This
There
is
you go.
true.
That's exactly what
this
I'm
is
talking
fair,
about.
but hold on. Wait. Before we start throwing bangers out there like this, all right? It's not very well optimized on the PC as well. Okay. All right. Now I don't have full benchmarks for, the AAA, top of the line specs, but I just saw somebody run benchmarks on the Steam Deck, which resolution is capped at like 5 by 800 or something like that, and the game couldn't get over 34 FPS. It could break 30 FPS if the guy was looking at the sky, but that was the extent of it. All right. Now I know that's a very small, like benchmark thing we're looking at here, but I just think the game is badly optimized. All right. Let's use a different game if we want it. Let's use Doom Eternal. All right. That's a good game. All right. You play that on console, PC, similar.
So someone like Sean's friend is gonna get like 240 FPS, on Doom Eternal or something crazy. They're not going for 4K at 30 FPS. And realistically, there's like a handful of games that consoles will run at 4K at 60 FPS. But if you're spending $5,000 on a rig, it's because you want to see 240 and you want to see it on games like Witcher.
Yeah, but the
And
vast
there's
majority of
just-
people don't have a 240, like statistics back that up. That like I couldn't pull those in front of me, but I know that I have seen those stats.
get
and
it.
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, man, my rig, so my rig's kind of like cobbled together over the years. Now, if I had to buy it straight up, it's probably somewhere around like a couple grand or something like that. And, I personally think that it would most likely outperform consoles. And
And look, I'm not saying that it won't. All right. Now I'm just throwing that out there. I don't want this to turn into like a,
yeah,
an us
console or
versus
whatever.
them. All right. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing out there, hey, playing Miles Morales on PS5, I'm getting 90 FPS with ray tracing at 4K.
Hmm.
Now that's a little unfair because it's a variable, a dynamic resolution thing where it'll scale between like
Yep.
1440 or sub 1440 or something like that in 4K in favor of the FPS with everything else
Yep.
that's going on. But the gap is closing, is my point. The gap is closing. Okay. If I'm a casual gamer and I have an experience like that on the PlayStation, okay, and I don't have to go and spend $2,000 on a PC for the same experience, you guys get where I'm getting. I'm not saying that the PC can't always do it better.
No,
I'm just
on the
saying from
casual side, it's
perspective,
console all the way. Console all the way.
absolutely, right?
If
Like,
if you're just trying to experience a game and you've not had the other side of the equation yet, like you've never experienced high refresh rate gaming on a very high end rig on the PC side, then you're likely not going to realize that there's even a difference on the other end of the spectrum anyways.
Yeah.
I do believe, like for myself, I've been borderline spoiled and ruined at the same time, because now that I've done high refresh rate gaming, you're almost stuck in this loop of you have to always have hardware that will support it.
Yeah.
I agree with that tenfold. I think that's been the one thing that's ruined my console experience.
Right, because
Yeah.
I get borderline. I honestly, I'm an old man, I guess these days, getting ready to turn 36, so I don't know, but I get nauseous in anything that's sub 60, man. I just can't play it. I just can't do it.
And you know what, Brent? You told me that. I remember you saying when I met Brent the first time. All right, just a little history. This was about 4 years ago, almost 3 and some change. Brent told me those exact same words, and I didn't understand it. But at that time, consoles weren't breaking. I didn't even have a panel that supported over 30 FPS. Brent put me on, all right. And within the first 6 months of working at this company, I had 2 high-ish refresh, panels, and I could see. Right now, 3 years past that, all right, and I've upgraded monitors, I've upgraded TVs with this thing in mind of, hey, I'd like to favor, high refresh panels. I love it. I want to see it. I need it. And very recently, Overwatch 2, I've been playing that primarily on PC, and it's fantastic. I'm rocking like between 100 and 120 FPS at 4K, and it's beautiful. Hop back over to console. right? And my options are 30 FPS or 60 FPS. And 30 FPS looks great, but 60, everything looks really grainy on my big 4K TV. And it's terrible. It's kind of ruined the experience there for me. Just the, I mean, I can see it, Brent. I can see the point that you're making of, but to
So
that end, you
here's
have to be on the
here.
other side.
So here's part of my problem, right? Again, you can't really fit everyone into a particular mold. And what I mean by that is it depends on the gaming experience that you want. And do you have those options? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point is you have the option to do and have the experience that you want. So for me, I don't really care. I want my game to run smooth. I'm not really so much concerned about the graphical fidelity. Do I want it to look pretty? Yes. But for me, it's more about the game itself. Is the game good? Can I play the game and it not hiccup and stutter and grain or have tearing? If I can accomplish those things, I'm enjoying my game. So right there is a vast difference between, say, me and Jordy. And so when you have that many people with different desires for their gaming experience, it's hard to say, well, yes, okay, console's good for you, PC's good for me, or console's good for everyone. You know what I'm saying? So I would say it depends, like Matt said earlier, on where you are in life, what you can afford, and what you want your overall gaming experience to be. Right? That would be how I would describe it, because you can get into the nitty gritty of it, and for us, it's fun. Like, do I want top of the line? Absolutely. Who doesn't? But does my 3050 do what I need to for me right now? 100%. So why not wait until things progress to the point where, okay, these cards have been out for a while. My next jump, maybe it's 50 series. And then I get that bang for my buck for the jump. You know what I mean? And maybe
Which is,
consoles
I'm
do
starting
catch up.
to. Well, I feel like I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean. I'm sorry. I'm
You're
having
good.
an epiphany as you're saying these things, and I'm understanding like this is how the generation works on either side. Is I feel like console adaptation is a little, or adoption is a little bit easier than the PC side, just because of the different nuanced things.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'd agree with that.
you want to upgrade your GPU doesn't just mean that's the only thing you're upgrading. I know with this one I had to pick up a PSU as well, and that bumped me up a couple $100. You know what I'm saying? Some
Yeah.
people got to upgrade a couple more pieces. So that makes sense to me. Adoption being a little tiny bit slower, but for I think one of the big pillars of being, hey, my current system does what I need it to do. I can play games in the way that I want, and I can do everything else exactly the way that I need to right now. I'll wait until the price drops on these, and then I'll jump up in a couple generations and we'll go from there. And it's very weird. It's a very weird like milestone of, because it means that the PC side of things, you guys don't upgrade in the same way. In the console space, people are going to be within two generations of each other, whereas in the PC space, that's not always the truth. And so it makes things a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more challenging. All that to say, I feel like I'm left with the question. I mean, you guys have put me on. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I just feel like I'm stuck myself after this recording, like asking who are these cards for? Like, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, I know I'm not the
mm.
majority, but $1,600 is a
Could,
crazy
could it be
amount.
the investors?
I mean, I guess, but that would
I didn't
I
want to
just
say it.
like
I didn't want to say it.
I just they're not very good at like reading the room. Is my point though, right? Like, hey, I get it. You got to
Sure.
be a little greedy, but I mean, man, the world is in shambles right now. Who are these cards for? Oh, who?
But
How are you guys
also,
feeling?
but my perception of it is, yes, it has something to do with the pockets of the shareholders, right? Sure. Or of the company or whoever pockets they want to line. But at the same time, it's also, if we can, why shouldn't we? So this progresses like everything else. The better the graphical output, the better the graphical fidelity. I mean, look at Modern Warfare 2. Every single cutscene looks like a movie. You know,
Oh boy.
I'm just as
Oh.
engaged in the cutscenes as I am playing the game. Like,
Whew.
so I mean, just so think about the fact that as they progress and they make better cards, and you get that DLSS 3, and then now the games can have more, be bigger, be better. I mean, that's not to get philosophical, but as a human race, that's what we do. We make things
Yeah.
better. We try to. We try to always get to the next iterations. Why do we have 14 iPhones? Right? Because we're always pushing towards the next best thing.
Yeah.
So it's really just my perception, and this is my take, is if we can, why shouldn't we? In the context of
Fair.
progressing the games.
Fair. Like an altruistic, and I agree with that because it does progress. You know what I mean? That's what I mean, with the consoles are always, we're like the younger sibling in that regard. We're waiting
Right.
for the hand-me-downs, right? Like what was with this, I'm really excited about, these new cards coming out because I know with the console space, like, I mean, NVIDIA is ushering in the third generation of ray tracing, right? Like, and that only means good things for the consoles where I spend a majority of my time gaming, right? So,
Right.
Brent, Matt, how are you guys feeling?
I'll let Matt go first.
I was going to let you go first.
Oh, really?
I want to let Big Brent talk.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think my personal opinion would be anybody on a 20 series or below looking to upgrade. I think this is the time to do it for them. I don't like, for me setting on the 30. I don't think it's the time to do it. I might, later on, for me anyways, personally, I might jump on one at the tail end of it. If, prices crash again, maybe I'll get one of those. Most likely I'll be waiting for a 50 series card, and that'll probably be even mid life cycle for one of those. Unless something changes. If some crazy AAA title comes out and then all of a sudden the gold standard to even play that game is to have some technology that's locked behind a 40 series card, or you're going to have a bad time, then maybe I'll be forced into it,
Yep.
But for right now, I have to get more value out of the 230 series cards that I have. The good thing about my situation, not everybody's in this situation, but a lot of my tech gets cycled down. So it'll get cycled down to my wife who does casual gaming. I can see some point in the very near future, I'm going to be building gaming rigs for both of my daughters, and it's just going to get cycled through like that. So I'm going to
That's
get
a
a
great
lot of
point.
life out of my hardware between me
Yeah.
and then just passing it down to family members. So I'm not super worried about it, honestly, but at least as far as like me and what I do and what I need from my rig, it's going to be a little while. I have to get more of my money out of this 3080.
And really quickly, and Matt, hey, I didn't forget about you. We're about to pass this right over
Oh.
to you to bring us to close here, all right? But as I'm, Brent, as you're mentioning these things, a good point, and I'm thinking, I share your line of thinking. It'll probably be at a minimum, ideally for me, 50 series that I'm looking at upgrading again, and if I can push that as deep into that cycle as I can, that would be the sweet spot. Another benefit for me of having a little bit of everything under one roof is if I don't want to upgrade or if I want to skip a generation, my Xbox, my PS5 will do the job for now. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, I'm inadvertently flexing a little bit of privilege there, but I'm just now understanding, hey, that's another pro of having at least one of these ninth gen consoles in the house. Is if I run into that situation where my gaming experience is now hindered by not having a 40 series card, well, ideally the console versions of that game will be optimized on the console space. So, anyways, Matt, bring us together, man. How are you feeling?
Man, so I think that I can't buy this generation. And I think I can't buy this generation because the PCI requirement is too high for my current motherboard. And that means I need a new motherboard. And that means I need a new CPU. And I mean,
Oh,
that's a two that I mean that
it's
means
a whole rebuild, man. That's a whole
well,
rebuild.
I get to keep my RAM. So that's nice. And
Yay.
I get to keep my power supply
That's
because
nice.
I for
Yeah.
Yay.
so, that's a serious limitation. And what I think is that I mean that's a lot of scratch, bro, to replace your MOBO and your CPU and the card. I mean, realistically, I would expect to spend $1,000 to get mid-range everything there, and with maybe like a higher end graphics card. And I think I'm just gonna have to kick that can down the road a little bit.
Yep.
I'm still, I still got, an i9, so I've got a decent CPU. I just gotta wait it out, basically.
Let me ask you.
Until I can jump.
Let
And I,
me ask.
go ahead.
No, no, no. I just one last question, one final question to round us all out. All right. I imagine this one will be a quick one. Okay. And this, just throwing this way out there in left field. Okay. There's been rumors of mid-gen refresh. I can't speak. Refreshes. Mid. Mid-gen refreshes for these ninth generation consoles. Okay, so much like the Series or the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro when those came out, there's kind of inklings, and there has been for a while, that we're looking at, getting an announcement and a console drop here in the next 2 or 3 years. I've seen some wild stuff, like Sony filed a patent for a console that could fit 2 GPUs in it, like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
I don't know where they're going with this. Okay, but the question here is, could you guys see, right? My thought process is, as we go deeper in the generations, that it'll just get more expensive for this stuff. Could you guys ever see yourself like entertaining, hey, maybe I'm going to switch over to the console space. Maybe we're in 10th or 11th or 12th generation consoles. Do you guys see yourself asking yourself that question, or like taking the plunge out of the PC master race simply for cost, or is there another factor? Like, does that question make sense? I'm kind of all over the place. I feel like. Okay.
No, I got you, man. I got one. I would say like a straight up convert, absolutely not, because the console just cannot do enough. There's just too many games that are on PC only. No, I don't have an example at hand, but they're out there. And would I ever consider like buying a console anyways? Yeah, man. I would consider doing that. I really value the opportunity to game with, my wife and my kids, and a console would give me access. A console plus Game Pass would give me access to like a bunch of co-op style games that I could play, together with my wife and kid without having to invest in like another PC. Basically, it's a cheaper way in. So,
Fair.
just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Sean, Brent.
So for me, my question would be, you mentioned Sony putting in 2 graphics cards, and you have to wonder, okay, at what point does it become, again, price prohibitive for you to get that console? And at that point, would I rather just go with a PC? Meh. Because, I also do other things with my PC rather than gaming, or other than gaming. So I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck just outside of that as well. So do I own consoles? Absolutely. For the very reason Matt just mentioned. I have a Switch, and that's because I want to play games with my son and my wife, and we have friends over and we play Jackbox and we put it on the TV, and that's things I can't do easily with a computer, right? My rig is more tailored to me and my gaming preferences. So I think you'll always see maybe a combination, and that was something I was thinking of when you were asking the question. Is I don't think it's ever going to be mutually exclusive, or one is better than the other. I think it fits different circumstances. So for me, it's not that I'm opposed to console gaming, but exclusively, no. I don't ever see myself going back to exclusive gaming on console, just because.
Okay.
Just because I don't see really the point, and because if for the consoles to match, at least I'm going to timestamp this as of right now, I don't see where you could keep the price point and have that capability as well. That low barrier to entry.
I just want to throw it out there. Sony and or both PlayStation and Xbox have been taking losses on their consoles for years by large sums of money, which is why things like Game Pass and like Sony's little software subscription stuff are important, because they do not make a dime on hardware sales. So I imagine that will continue. I don't know if I'm not sure it would have been prevalent with you guys, because why would you guys care? But a lot of people were putting the price points between $500 and $800 when these consoles were announced. You know what I mean? And the entry point is sub 300. So all that to say, I imagine these things aren't going to be that much more expensive than 100, $200, which is still, it's a lot of money. This is still a lot of money. But all that to say, Brent, I imagine that your sentiment is shared.
It is. I could never go back exclusively to consoles. I'm a firm believer that you're gonna have, especially with stuff like if you're big into Nintendo games and stuff like that, you're gonna have to always buy whatever Nintendo's console is. They're not coming to PC anytime soon. You might as well give up that hope. They're not gonna do it. They're just not. So, we have a Switch in the household. At one point or another, we still had an Xbox, but I got rid of that ages ago, just because with Game Pass and Microsoft doing the big things they're doing. So yeah, I couldn't. There's no way I could go back exclusively. And I will say something just to kind of, this is a whole nother point, because we've been talking a lot about NVIDIA and their 40 series launch. We have not spoken about AMD. They're going to be announcing their new lineup of graphics cards, the RDNA 3 based ones, on November 3rd. So for anyone that's a tech guru, if you're into tech, you want to learn about it, you want to see what AMD's offering is, they typically, AMD is historically known for releasing more budget-oriented cards. They're not necessarily trying to compete at the high level with NVIDIA, but maybe this year is that year. I don't know. Or this release is that release anyways. So something to keep an eye out for. Of course, when this releases, that'll be 2 days away. So...
Oh, we keep people informed. Love it, Brent.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Guys, I think that about wraps it up. I think this has been a good episode. Lots of good conversation. I mean, we were going back and forth here.
Absolutely.
I want to throw out a couple
When do we
of
not?
different things here. Number one, I'm kind of a console apologist between the four of us here. I think I'm really the only one that's still rocking on consoles like for sure daily. You know what I mean? And I just imagine that for the people who we do have listening, I'm probably going to make a couple people roll their eyes or scoff. All right, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Okay, all right. Listen, I see both sides of the conversation, both sides of the argument. I appreciate you guys. I don't know that there's a call to action this episode outside of join our Discord. We're in there talking all the time about games and tech news and security stuff and stuff that doesn't matter, and just generally having a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, come into Discord. So, tell us what card you have, what games you play, and we'll tell you whether or not we think it's worth jumping and into these new cards, and whether it's worth spending money on them and whatnot.
Yes. At the end of the day, and I feel like we can kind of summarize just a little bit. I think, well, actually, no, we don't need to do that. I'm just prolonging the end of the episode. I'll just wrap us up. Join the Discord. Come say hello. Tell us what cards you're rocking. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Bye everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.